Well, good morning, everybody. Fantastic that you're here. It's a great venue, and we've had a fantastic response to this conference, and it's just great stuff. So, my job today is just to touch on GIA and how that sits with our industry and the lessons, I guess, that we can learn from this particular event, because it is something that we need to be aware of. So I'm going to try and make this go somewhere, am I? No. Hang on. Something's happening. There you go. It's a bit flash, isn't it? I had some help, I might add. I couldn't have done that myself. I think you know, some really big lessons as part of this whole thing, and one of that is about communication and working together. And you know, we've been very fortunate as Apiculture New Zealand that Karen has been part of the working group with myrtle rust. It's something that's important to us, and obviously there's a serious risk for us, and we need to be very conscious of that. So it's good stuff. So we're looking how we deliver that sort of information to you, and obviously through Karen's weekly newsletter, you've been getting those updates, and we also thank MPI for that. So if you're looking for that information, it is available for you. The second thing that's really important is the need for partnership, and it's very clear as we look at where our industry is and where the horticulture and agricultural sector are moving, that we are working in partnership. These other industries are very large beneficiaries of what our honeybee does. It does a huge amount of pollination work, and it contributes a massive amount of dollars to our economy each year, so we need to recognise that. But I think we also need to recognise that the New Zealand government has signalled that biosecurity now is a partnership. It's no longer just their responsibility, it's a joint responsibility, and we need to consider that as an industry and make sure that we're really aware of what that implication is and how we should operate. So what are the benefits of a GIA, a governance industry agreement between apiculture and MPI and their team? Well, one is certainly is cost sharing, because if you are a GIA signatory, you are one of a team, and the cost of running the secretariat and the work that they do is a shared cost. So we're not paying a dollar for every amount or every hour of activity. We're paying a share of that. And it's important that we understand that. It's not too onerous. We are part of a pre-public notification system. In other words, we are brought into the consultation process. Almost immediately there's an incursion recognised or an issue raised. And that's really critical for an industry, and it's really critical for this industry. It's a privilege to be part of that, and we've been privileged with Karen sitting there with the myrtle rust incursion. It gives you some voting rights. If you're a signatory, you actually have a say in what happens. Where we sit right at this moment, we are simply a guest at the table. We have no say. And I can assure you, when you get down to a discussion on whether they're going to put hive movement control related to myrtle rust on our industry, at the end of the day, it was simply afforded to us that, sorry, you're not a signatory and you won't get that say on that particular issue. Right? We need to be at the table and we need to have a say. Just appreciate the outbreak that's currently been recognised now in Te Puke, and understand what would happen if all our hives are in lockdown and we wouldn't be able to move them. What would happen to our kiwifruit industry? What's it going to do to our manuka sector? The whole movement of hives is would have been extremely challenging for us. So we need to take these things on board and understand it. If we're at the table, we would have had a say. But if you're not at the table as a signatory, you don't. There's the opportunity for fiscal caps. In other words, as an industry, we might have said, after much discussion, that we would put a cap on our expenditure, for example, for this particular incursion of $1 million. Now that sounds like a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money in our industry, to be quite blunt. Now, our industry is doing extremely well, and there are a lot of people that are benefiting from Manuka, the pollination work we're doing. is $1 million a lot of money? Well, if it's good for our industry and it stops something happening, I think it's probably a wise investment. What we just need to understand is that we can cap it. If we're not a signatory, we just simply are going to accept the invoice that is going to be delivered to us by MPI. They're about 12 months away from instituting that policy. When it comes in, if you're a beneficiary and you're a substantial beneficiary, you will pay the substantial lion's share of the cost of actually acting against that incursion. I mean, would we be happy that the kiwi fruit industry decided to use antibiotic spray on all their plants and we didn't have a say? Would we be happy with that? What's the implication? Because they're huge. There's also the opportunity to put in place operational agreements, and those operational agreements lay out some foundation and some pre-planning and bits and pieces. In our industry, I think we probably only need one to deal with viruses and bacteria, and the other to deal with pests, such as the small hive beetle. So we wouldn't have anything too onerous, but it's something that we really need to address. Look, we've got a team at the Industry Goods stand in the trade arena behind us. They're going to be there for the next 3 days. There's some information there. We would like your feedback, and the only way we can move forward is to have good discussion. So please take some time and talk to the team there, grab a brochure, pass on what your feelings are so that we can understand where everybody sits on this particular issue. I'm sold on GIA, I have been for a long time, but we need to bring the whole industry with us, so we need good, robust discussion about it.